Boomer ball, boomer ball, boomer ball. Get the branding right.
It's about to be some grown folks talking here, okay?
No representation is made that the quality of podcasting performed is greater than the quality of podcasting performed by other podcasters.
Change my pitch up, smack my bitch up. I said, change my pitch up, smack my bitch up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce a little thing I like to call
Boomer Bob with the Boomer Bob Show, coming back to discuss some inaccurate news and irrational views. Yeah, I know it's been a while since I've sat down here and shared my thoughts with you, just my solo thoughts. Kind of backed out on putting out the second part of the sit down I had with my buddy Wise Guy. I just didn't feel like it was coherent enough for me to poison your ears with. So what's going on? Hope everybody's doing well in Biden's new America. Feeling the love and the unity and whatnot. You know, he said it's going to take all of us. Says it's going to take all of us, not just some of us. I mean, look at how the left was for the last 4 years. How much resistance Trump got. And how much hatred was spewed in his direction the entire time he was president. Never once did he get any cooperation from anybody that opposed him. So you can expect that and then some, you crusty, ass-hair-sniffing, finger-raping criminal. Unity via purge is what he means by this. Conform to unity on your own or it will be forced upon you. I mean, just because he said, it's going to take all of us, then we the fucked over should just respect his wishes? Fucking blow me. All right? I'm applying for food stamps as we speak, and I'm looking forward to some milk from the government tit that I've been filling up for 30 plus years. Fuck him and this economy. Speaking of this wonderful economy, he's pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, is this good? Well, if you're making less than that, I'm sure you're thinking it's a great idea. But is it? I mean, is this just perpetuating the system that has kept the lower class where the upper class wants them? How do you justify this wage increase to someone who's worked for over 10 years at a company, proving themselves to be a valuable asset and earning their pay increases from the starting wage of $9 an hour up to $16 or $17 an hour that they currently get? This increase in the minimum wage will be gradual. I believe the plan is to raise it incrementally over the next 4 years or so to a final resting place of $15 an hour where it'll probably stay for the next 10 or more years. Are all jobs worth $15 an hour? I mean, what's the most menial of jobs someone would have? Well, the obvious would be fast food, right? Anyone who says that fast food workers aren't worth $15 an hour, well, they've never worked fast food. They never get my order right, or they just push buttons. Dude, your order being wrong can be written off to bad managerial staff or just shit happens. Trust me, I order everything plain. I get my order wrong all the fucking time. Relax. I mean, I agree. They mostly just push buttons, but a lot of them are required to do shit that you would never do. Like, I don't know, when customer traffic is slow, they go and clean those nasty fucking tables and chairs that your kid's diaper leaked out onto. They clean those toilets that you blew the fuck up and didn't flush. They clean the parking lots that you dumped your ashtray into and empty the trash cans you decided to fill up when you cleaned out that rolling dumpster that you call a car. At the same time, give legacy workers who have started at $8 an hour and worked their way up over the period of 5 to 10 years or more the same pay increase. How's that going to work? How's that going to affect the bottom line? Someone making $14 now gets $18 an hour? Well, they should. It's only fair. Think about that person who worked at the same job for 6 years, started at $8 an hour, and worked their way up to $14.50 an hour. You're only going to give that person a 50-cent raise to 15 and then pay new hires the same? Well, that's not going to work. I've made shit pay in recent times. When the housing bubble busted back in 2007, I was making about $20 an hour painting new homes as fast as they could build them. My boss took good care of me, and I kept his bank account bloated as fuck. That was my job. Make him rich. He didn't mind sharing the money with the ones that put it in his pocket, though. He was a good dude. Those houses stopped coming out of the ground. Developments where we would see 4 to 5 slabs poured in a week were like ghost towns. Nothing. And I was laid off and ultimately terminated. Luckily, I knew from decades in the industry that painting homes was either feast or famine. I ignored my friends telling me to buy a $160,000 home, man. You can afford it. And I bought a nice double-wide mobile home just a few miles as the crow flies from the Atlantic Ocean in Melbourne, Florida. Mortgage and lot rent combined, I was in for about $600 a month. Not too bad for a 1,700 square foot, freshly remodeled home near the ocean in sunny Florida. I had saved a few bucks, and I had recently sold 2 other mobile homes that I owned, which put a little coin in my reserves, so I could maintain while I sought other employment in the field. I ended up settling for a painting position at the local state college, FIT, the Florida Institute of Technology. They employed their own paint crew to help maintain their campus and facilities. They also paid like fucking dog shit. As a senior painter, aka someone who ran a crew of junior painters, I made $9.28 an hour plus benefits. Now, this was back in 2007, so we're not talking about eons ago. I think the last time I made that kind of money was in 1990. The benefits were great, but you weren't allowed to use them. You couldn't take off work to go to a doctor. They wouldn't let you go get like a physical or get your teeth cleaned or go to the eye doctor. And my boss was a racist tyrant who straight up told me that I was hired for racial balancing, that HR felt that he was being too one-sided with his choices for new hires. Yes, he was a black man. Now, while working there, my reserves were drying up. I could barely make ends meet with the paychecks that I got from FIT. And one day, a slight injury on the job where I merely pulled a muscle in my right arm while carrying a buffet table in the wind ended up costing me my job. The doctor had put me on light duty for 10 days, which meant the other painters my boss protected from physical labor would have to do work, and this just wouldn't do. And, well, Florida is an at-will work state, so I had no recourse when I was terminated for being injured on the job. A side note, I kept my injury to myself until later that day. I was told to load a pressure washer onto the van by myself and merely asked someone to help me load it. Like, why? You can't lift it, but nah, man, I pulled a muscle in my arm, I think, earlier. You gotta go do an accident report. What? No, man, just help me load this real quick. I can get it off by myself. You just get one of those off. They have big pneumatic tires on them. You just let them bounce on the ground for a second. Be all right. So I had to move back to Alabama, where I knew how to make a buck. I had exhausted my efforts in gaining employment in Florida after 4 months of applying for jobs, so I returned to where I had a network that would allow me to sustain. I landed a job paying $13.50 an hour in 2008 and worked my way up to $16.50, and in 2012, I cut my ties with that asshole and opened up my own business. So I understand living on shit wages. I've done it into my midlife crisis years. Now, I recently heard some of my podcasting friends talk about this rant by a guy named Uncle Randy from a podcast called Married AF. You can use your imagination as to what the AF stands for. I've looked for the rant he did on socials, but I can't find it. They said that he discussed the idea of not having a minimum wage, but rather a maximum wage. I was intrigued, to say the least. The idea is that the CEO of the company can only make an X multiplier of the company's lowest paid employee. So, if the kid in the mailroom is only making $12 an hour and the CEO can only make, say, 100 times that amount maximum, which at $12 an hour would be roughly $2.5 million a year for the CEO at 100x. So if the CEO bumps that mailroom person up to $15 an hour, well, then the CEO's max salary climbs to $3.12 million a year. Giving the mailroom person just $3 an hour raise puts $620K into the CEO's pocket. And I think this model could work. I'm sure they'll just find ways to pay themselves in stock options or whatever, and then fuck us all in the end anyway. So, Uncle Randy, from what I know, he does have plans to run for governor of Georgia in 2022. So look him up on social media if you're in there, want to support him. He does have some pretty good ideas, and he's just a regular guy like one of us. Overall, pretty cool guy. I like him. So I want to move on to this. I want you guys to quit labeling me, okay? Kind of getting tired of it. I have conservative values as well as liberal values. I support a woman's right to choose, but I do believe in a certain period in the pregnancy that abortion should not be an option unless under extreme circumstances. I do believe that that is a human life in there at some point. I support legal immigration, but I also want our borders protected. I keep hearing comparisons regarding immigration with other countries like New Zealand and Australia. Well, those are unfair examples. When comparisons are made regarding illegal immigration in the United States, they need to be realistically comparable. Find another country with the freedoms and humanitarian entitlements that we offer our poor that's bordering a country that has a shit government run by drug lords, add in population, and well, it's not possible to compare. I'll stand on the same X that I made for myself years ago and say that we need to hold these countries where these people are migrating from accountable for their quote-unquote refugees. For every person from Mexico that we take in, we send a bill to their home country. Take whatever costs are involved out of any foreign aid packages that we send them on an annual basis. I support human rights for everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or ethnicity. I do not support legislation or corporate policies that force quotas on diversity employment. For instance, the NASDAQ is pushing for all companies listed to have a 50% or higher female board. While I understand the sentiment, this isn't the answer and pushes things into dangerous territory. You're no longer hiring someone based on credentialed qualifications and core abilities that would assure a candidate will ensure a company's growth. This isn't possible when your primary asset is gender. Now, on a side note, I do see these companies hiring trans women. You know what I mean? Loophole? It baffles me how this isn't seen as giving jobs to people based on gender and skin color, which is racism. Now back to the lecture of why I hate being labeled while I label everyone else in the process of my explanation. The economy, let's see, I definitely lean more right libertarian, libertarian lightly, the right libertarian side of the spectrum here. I believe in free market capitalism, but I do believe in civil liberties, natural law, a reversal of the welfare state, and the notion of negative rights. I'm aware that we have to grease certain palms around the world in the form of foreign aid. It's just a part of the game when you're in the top 3 most powerful countries in the world. But I do not support the gross misuse of our federal budget as we've seen the last 20 years. Paying for wars that we subcontract out to corporations, then paying other subcontractors to rebuild the infrastructures that were destroyed during the war. Sending billions to countries to keep wars going in efforts to play games with oil and other commodities. We are paying for people getting killed over this shit, while the funds we take from our own country to pay for it could just as well be used to help our own people within our own borders. How many countries does China help with aid? I'm sure you can Google it and get all bunch of glorified information, but what they provide is gifts to other countries, concessional loans, disaster relief, all of which comes with a price. They don't get out their checkbook without getting something in return. Where do I stand on climate change? Speaking of China, somebody who gets to totally evade all rules of climate change orders, the Paris Accord and whatnot. Are humans a detriment to this planet? Yes. Are we causing the planet to deteriorate? Probably. Are we the cause of the melting polar ice caps? I don't support climate change in the way that it's been marketed to us. We have 5 years to completely ditch the way we've been progressively doing shit for 100 years and embrace something we haven't even invented yet, or else we will all drown. No. How about you stop it with the magic trick of killing pipelines in our country, along with tens of thousands of jobs that went with it, in the name of climate change, while providing billions in funds to foreign countries like the Ukraine for their oil bullshit, and starting wars in countries like Syria that, well, for the last 4 years had found a much calmer rhythm. All for oil. Oil that you say you hate every time the topic of climate change comes up. You just want to kill our position on oil while propping up foreign competitors' positions. Is this your idea of good paying union jobs? Or the move to clean energy? Sorry, I got sidetracked there, but how about we put some serious investment into the development of clean energy? Now, not like the $500 million that Obama gave Solyndra his first 6 months in office, who Solyndra took that money, $500 million, and then folded up 6 months later and disappeared. Wind doesn't really work. Shitloads of birds die at the hands of wind farms that also leak the equivalent of a tanker's full of oil lubricant into the soil. And once decommissioned after about 20 years, those fiberglass windmills have to be buried in the soil. There are entire landfills dedicated to doing this. Look them up. I'd love to see solar become more affordable, like LED bulbs. I've remodeled my last 6 homes since 2001, and I wanted to rig each place with LED lighting options, but man, they were like 10 to 20 times the price of their incandescent, fluorescent, and halogen counterparts. Well, now LED lighting is very affordable. Can we do that with solar? I'm not saying to 100% rely solely on solar panels for everything, but man, if I could drop like $1,000 and wire my home, let's say low wattage stuff like lights, half of the things I have plugged into an outlet like computers, chargers, TVs, with an energy source like a battery that was charged by solar panels, I'd be climbing a ladder right now. 75% of the shit in my house is energy efficient enough to be powered by solar panels mounted to my roof, but the cost would be in around the $20,000 range to do that. I can justify it for the sake of being off the grid and not supporting a utility company that fucks me out of availability fees each month. What's the deal with that anyway? Availability fees. You ever looked at your electric bill or your water bill and noticed an availability fee? I have, and I called about them. My water, I think, has like a $14 or $15 availability fee. So I'm on septic, so they can't charge me for sewage. But even if I don't use 1 drop of water in a month, I still pay $14 or $15 availability fee plus tax. Well, why? Well, because it's available to you. Hey, you know what? Walmart has 75-inch TVs hanging on the wall in the back that I have available for me to purchase. But if I only go in there to grab a gallon of milk, they don't charge me a big screen TV availability fee on the way out the fucking door. It's bullshit. And they do the same with the electric. It's like, I think it's $10-12 availability fee for electric. So would I love to get off of that tit? Hell yes. I'd love it. But it's not worth the overpayment of roughly $20,000, you know. I mean, I doubt that I would ever see a recouping of my investment via money saved on buying electric from those sons of bitches. Maybe we can get Bob Lazar to agree to a hypnotherapy session where we can get him to like more accurately describe what he saw on those UFOs in Area 51. I'd like some Mr. Fusion in my life. I think we need to rid ourselves of labels. While most labels put upon me are just someone else's opinion, usually someone who doesn't know me well enough to label me anything other than an asshole, the only label we all need to embrace is the label of human. I don't give a fuck about your skin color, your sexual orientation, your gender, your job title, your political affiliation, your Twitter handle, what Ancestry DNA told you your ethnic background is, and if you believe that, you're an idiot. Whether you're vegetarian, a vegan, a carnivore, I don't care. None of that defines or should define who you are as a person. What defines you as a person is how you perceive the world and the people around you. I know this. Now, this straight, white, Scottish, American, cisgendered, male, registered Republican meat eater from Alabama, known as @BoomerBobShow on Twitter, appreciates each and every one of you people for putting my voice into your ears. And I'm working on some other different stuff, so keep those eyes and ears trained toward the social platforms. @BoomerBobShow on pretty much all social media, 256-229-4105. Call me up and put me down. Whatever cranks your tractors. Back to hating, mother...
Ain't no lie, getting old as a bitch. Gonna spit this game, only way I'll get rich.